Good morning, everybody. This is Roy Bandori with TalkCondo.com, and we are at the Altry head office today, joined by Jordan, Director of Operations of Altry, and Zev Mendelbaum, the President and CEO of Altry Development. So thank you very much for your time. We're here today to talk about 36 Zorra. I want to talk to Zev for a minute because more than most developers, I think you've got a very interesting story. You are a third generation developer. I can only imagine what those dinner conversations were growing up. So give us a quick rundown on sort of your journey to get to where you are right now.
Sure. So thank you, Roy. As you said, I'm a third generation real estate developer. In my family, if you're not in real estate development, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
So we are a very large family of real estate developers. My grandfather started a company in the 50s called H&R Developments. H&R burgeoned into a bunch of companies. He had some very close friends at Olympia, New York, and Medallion and Fieldgate, which all later kind of married into the family and in some way, shape, or form partnered up with our family. And as the transition went from one generation to the next, H&R split up into four primary companies. There's my Uncle Dave, who runs a company called Davpart, my Uncle George, who owns a company called Linvest, and my father, who owns a company called Lanterra. The family further rolled their commercial assets into a public REIT called H&R REIT, which my Uncle Tom is the CEO of. So I grew up every Sunday going to the sites and seeing the buildings being built, riding scrapers, riding cranes. My first time I was 12 years old, I went to the top of a crane in Yorkville. And back then they weren't so big on safety harnesses. And I remember looking at what was a very, very calm skyline of Toronto and noticing the buildings that my family built. And now it's a completely different skyline than it was back then. And that's what I grew up with. I grew up with lectures on Sunday about zoning and cap rates and different types of building materials. So that very much was my childhood.
Amazing.
And when the time came for me, I started working in H&R, and then I worked in Lanterra. And after I got my training boots on, I started a company called Marlin Spring with my brother-in-laws. Marlin Spring became a very heavy builder. We brought many, many, many projects to market. I was doing all the development side of work and the acquisition side, and I brought Canvas to market, Canvas condominiums, West Beach condominiums, the Mac condominiums, Stockyards, along with Jordan, who's been by my side for the last decade. And it has been a real amazing experience. And then when the time came for me to say I want to put my own stamp on this world, I decided the way to do that was just like my grandfather and father living in the shadow and seeing all the buildings they built. I wanted to build something of my own. So I built a company called Altry Developments. Altry, alt to challenge the standard, and re, high sense of excitement. So if you're excited to challenge the standard, it's Altry. And that's really what we try to do, to create a company that's challenging the standard. Because it started off with low rise actually. Then it went into mid-rise.
A lot of the developers do, right? A lot of the developers do start off with the low rise and then transition up.
And then my father, growing up working on 11 Wellesley on the Park and the Brit and Murano and Burano and working on ice condos in Maple Leaf Square and the One Bedford. And I remember one of my first projects that I worked on was Water Park City, which today is very different than it did when the Molson factory was there. And that's really all I ever knew and ever wanted to be. So I had that burn to become a developer.
It's in the blood.
Very much.
Awesome. So, I mean, you mentioned some powerhouse developers. Now it's Altry. On the first project here at 36 Zorra, you've also partnered with another major corporation. So talk to us a little bit about that process. Jordan, maybe you can touch on this as well. What did that process look like when you brought Elliston into the fold here?
Zev will be able to talk more so on the partnership level stuff, and I'll get into the project.
Sure, no problem.
When I started this project, I was looking for a major partner that had a similar view as me. But knowing that today everything comes down to how well you can build a building and the constructability of a building, I wanted to be partnered with a company that was the best at building buildings. Now, if your whole goal is to build a building, really what you want to do is you want to build a building that will stand the test of time. And to do that, in today's day and age, where construction is so fierce and there's so many construction companies, you really want the best of the best. I had a relationship with Ellis Don. In my family, construction is, everyone does their own construction, but you don't construct from one company to the other, right? It's a very specific task. It's catered to that project itself. And really what you want to do is you want to find a partner that's best suited to help you construct that project. So at first I was looking for a GC, so I wanted to come and build it.
Yeah.
And then when I partnered with Ellis Dawn, and they were already doing so many P3 projects with the LRT, the Metrolinx, and they were looking to break into the residential market as capital partners, actual partners. And we hit it off, and I thought this would be a really good mix, because here you have a super entrepreneurial behemoth of a company, just with so many employees and so much dedication, so much attention to detail. And then you have a guy like me who's very good at developing the sites. So putting that partnership together, we have the ultimate team. We have the development expertise, we have the construction expertise, and we have two partners that are perfectly aligned to the success of the building built. And when the construction guy is married to the development, and the development guy is married to the construction, and you both have the common goals aligned to build a building, you know it's going to get built.
You said something very important there. It's going to get built. The reason we spend so much time talking about Altry and Ellis Dawn and the partnership and your history is because now more than ever, and we've said this 100 times, over the last 18, 24 months, the clients are so much more, who the builder is and making sure it gets built is now front of mind for so many consumers and investors. And it's one of the first questions we get asked. Who is the builder? Are they reliable? Have they been around? Do they know what they're doing? All these questions are questions that didn't exist 24 months ago. So we hammer on it all the time. And to hear that story and to hear the partnership. And
So Roy, let me tell you, my family's been in this business 70
Yes.
years.
Yeah.
I have 3 children, 2 little boys and a little girl. And I'm certainly not going to end that legacy. We're going to be here for another 70
Amazing.
years, so they can say my family's been building for 150 years. And Ellis Dawn it's not just Ellis Dawn. Ellis Dawn is also owned by the Smith family, which is partners in this project.
Amazing.
Is there for the growth of Ellis Dawn, to continue that Ellis Dawn has many projects and residential projects to build. Because don't forget, they're a construction company.
Yep.
And that is their focus, to have projects to build.
Yep.
That we are both dedicated to this being built.
For sure. Amazing. You said something, we were sat in this boardroom a week or two ago, and you said something, we asked you about pricing, where'd you land? And you said something that sort of stuck with me. You said, we don't know the pricing because we have to do our costs another 30 times before we make sure. And that's the sort of experience that I assume comes from being around this world so many times. You want to be not sure, 1,000% sure that you've got every checkbox marked. And
if I can tell you the amount of detail that we spend on costing here, it would blow your mind. We don't just check the costing. We don't just tender the costing and go to budget trades.
Yeah.
We do it independently. Ellis Dawn does it independently. Our cost consultants do it independently. We do it independently. We ask everyone, and then we go back. We can tell you every single doorknob how much it's going to cost, where we're going to buy, where we're going to source it from before we even go to sale.
Awesome. We're really excited to be working with you guys, and I think you guys do an amazing job here.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So let's talk about, we're going to shift gears and talk a little bit more about Zorra. Before I talk about the site itself, I want to talk about Etobicoke, because Etobicoke is going through, again, a really interesting transition. Again, something that you've highlighted before that I think is something that every investor should be paying attention to is this idea of where the city has highlighted certain growth nodes. So I want you to talk to us a little bit about that and where this fits in that picture.
Sure. To understand Toronto and the way it works is you have to have a little bit of a zoning background. You have to understand planning, urban planning. Most cities in the world that were designed for urban planning are predicated upon understandable growth and where that growth has to come. Toronto was a city that was designed with different designations from neighborhoods to mixed use. And what that did was it created that there's a lot of family low-rise homes that are single detached in the city of Toronto, and then there are outcroppings of growth where they're allowed for mixed density. When there's a city that there's so much demand for product, there's so much demand for homes that everyone is looking to build wherever they can build, right? You can't fight City Hall. Good luck, right? What you're going to do is you're going to go to wherever the zoning regulation allows you to build. And Toronto has always been about that. It's been about communities. It's been about specific areas. And anyone who knows the city of Toronto isn't one city. It's made up of many, many little communities.
So this next piece that you're going to say is like, I think it's like an investment hack when you're looking forward. So this is something that we've done internally for years. I think most recently the one that comes to mind was over at Don Mills in Eglinton, one of your cousin companies, sister company. Sorry, no.
My uncle George,
Your uncle,
Linvest.
Yeah, Linvest. They had a site at Don Mills in Eglinton, and that neighborhood was sort of outlined as a growth node, quote unquote. That was 4 or 5 years ago. Today, there's a 60-acre brand new redevelopment happening across the road. So everybody who invested in that has gained huge.
Roy, I'll let you know a little secret. In the 1970s and 80s, my grandfather saw Don Mills in Eglinton coming.
Yeah.
And he built on Winford Drive all those apartment buildings.
Amazing.
Back then, because he knew it was going to be. Until today, my family still owns those buildings.
Amazing.
That's how they were able to predict where the growth was going. And till this day, those buildings are unbelievable buildings in terms of value for this family.
Sure. So yeah, I wanted to draw that parallel because that was the most recent one that came to my mind. And the exact same thing is happening here right now. So with that in mind, just talk a little bit more about where the original growth nodes were and where this one fits into.
Sure. So City of Toronto official plan policy, which dictates where growth goes in the city, has really created areas in Etobicoke for high density growth.
Yes.
Now, there are 3 primary areas aside from Sherway Gardens, which is a site unto its own, for growth. And that is the Etobicoke waterfront, Kipling Station, and the Queensway and Islington area, which you'll see over here.
Yes.
Now, what they did was they gave it a tremendous amount of mixed-use designation to allow for high-rise towers. What that allows is for density to come.
Yes.
And everyone knows that when density comes, density begets pricing, and pricing builds on pricing. And people build on neighborhoods, and neighborhoods build onto themselves. Case in point, I remember my first project that I invested in was the toy factory on Hannah Street in Liberty Village. Back then, Liberty Village was not the Liberty Village you know of today. I think we were around somewhere between $240 and $280 a square foot for the Monopoly unit that I bought, which today trades for $1,100 a foot, just to think in terms of how that's done. And what happened? Liberty Village was 1 building, 2 buildings, 3 buildings. It was a density node, and today Liberty Village doesn't have the greatest transit, and yet today it's a mecca place to be, right? City Place, very similar. First building, second building. Why? Because Toronto is an outcropping of cities. And once you have your community start off, once it starts growing, it compounds upon itself, and it drives value. It drives good investment. So the Etobicoke waterfront is pretty much done. There's very few buildings left. The value there is extremely expensive. Kipling Station, also pretty much done. Land is bought. I looked at Queensway and Islington, right away saw that this was where I wanted to be. And I started this project 3 years ago, and I knew that I wanted to be here. Because if you look at Kipling, Islington, Queensway, and Gardner, that section of the city is designated for high-use zones. 3 other developers already understood this. There was RioCan, who invested in this 22 extremely large Cineplex with arcades and everything, including the Cara Food Groups, where they brought the Montanas, the Kelseys, and so on and so forth.
So also, RioCan owns that.
RioCan owns this. This is employment. This is mixed use, which is future towers coming. With all the Cara groups staying. I own this parcel, and this parcel. And this is owned by Crombie, which owns Sobeys. And what they're doing is they're already site plan approved. They're building their 50,000 square foot Sobeys here, which is currently right now in this mall. It's being moved over to here. So they'll have a major grocery anchor in this area with the major Cineplex, with the restaurants over here, and the coffee shops and yoga shops over here. This is a rental building that will become a rental building. It's a rental community that they're going to be building, and I believe I heard rumors that there may be a little retirement in here as well. This is owned by Remington. It's the IQ project. These 4 buildings are already built. There's 2 12s and 2 24-story towers already built and constructed and occupied. This park is already built. We are expanding the park, and we can show you some renderings of that park, which is growing, and which you can see. This park is an urban park. It's going to be around 8 acres in size by the time it's done. In the meantime, it's about half built.
And that's at your doorstep at 36.
That's completely at your doorstep. You're surrounded by that park, and that park has water features, kids' play areas, jungle gyms. It has stadiums to sit at. We're putting outdoor ping pong tables here, adult areas that are there for chess and checkers and whatnot.
And I assume that's very much inspired by the urban parks of the big cities around the world.
Absolutely. We've taken this playbook directly from other cities. And there are cities like this that exist with this outcropping, where you have very similar size from everywhere from Chicago to Stockholm, all over this world. London has a really good neighborhood that compares to this as well. Our 36-story tower is coming here, and this is Conservatory Group, where this is in the future going to be a major redevelopment play because it's mixed-use, high density. But because it's major, it takes time for it to go through planning. So, and then we have 3 more towers coming from Remington. So we have here a piece of land the size of City Place with the first building coming out.
Yeah, and this is really what is, I think, as a broker and an investment advisor to my clients, this is really what I am very, very excited about. Exactly what you said. This is a huge parcel of land. This is effectively the first of what will probably be a dozen, 13, 14, 15 buildings over the next 5 to 10 years. So you are really getting in at the ground level here of this master plan redevelopment that includes retail, as you said. You've got you next door already to the Cineplex and the restaurants. A brand new Sobeys, 50,000 is a huge, anchored style grocery store. You're going to have the residents. Obviously, you've got the residences already there, and you've got this influx of all this new residents coming, and that's really what gets us excited about this. You are the first of what is going to be, who knows how many buildings, a dozen, 14, 15.
So it's a huge amount of growth potential. And I like to say is when you look for a good investment, or at least when I look for a good investment, I look for two things.
Okay.
Value today and value tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Value today means today, is it a good investment? If this building was built and standing today, would you be in the black? Would you be making money on your rent? And the answer is yes. Why? Because unlike some other outcropping of areas that are to come, right, that don't have the amenities are already here. You have your cinemas, you have your restaurants, you have your shops, you have your groceries. Sobeys is here today. The parks are here today. This little TTC will take you straight to Sherway Gardens within 2 kilometers. You have all the amenities at your doorstep today. The rents are there. We've done rental comparisons. You're making money today on your investment.
Cash flow positive.
Very cash flow positive on a very conservative basis. So you have value today, yet you're still at the beginning, at the cusp of something that will only compound in value.
Yeah. And you start to see why the city have highlighted this pocket as a growth node because of all those things that you talked about. You talked about the connection to the transit lines, the connection to the highways, the accessibility to the city. So you start to see all of this come into play.
I see extreme accessibility to the city by way of something very interesting. So
we're going to talk about that next. I know exactly where you're going.
The shuttle service.
Yes.
All right.
So let's talk specifically about 36 Zorra now.
Sure.
So. Give us sort of the bird's eye view of 36 Zorra. How tall it is, how many units. Just give us the sort of the bird's eye.
It's a 36-story tower with a 6-story podium. We have 459 units in this building. We have outdoor amenity on the 7th floor podium, indoor amenity on the 7th floor as well. So we have contiguous indoor and outdoor on the tower portion and above the podium. We have indoor amenity on the ground floor as well. We have a couple 2-story units on the ground floor, which I think is great from an end user perspective. Sure. We have a really great mix of 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms, and I'll get into that into a second. Everyone keeps asking us who do we think is going to really be buying here at 36 Zorra, and I honestly think it's really going to be a 50% end user, 50% investor. And that's because we were able to design this building from the inside out. And I think it's very important to talk about building something from the inside out, because when you build something from the inside out or design something from the inside out, you're really able to get optimal unit layouts.
100%.
And I think it's something that we really strive on and what we placed a lot of importance on over the last few years that Zev and I have been working on this project. So we have really, really great smaller investor units. We have some studio units. We have some 2-bedroom units that are 600 square feet, 575, 650, 2-bedroom and den suites. And then we have a lot of the larger suites that are a little bit more on the end user side, that are spacious, and being able to captivate both of those users, I think is extremely important. For this building, we have over 9,500 square feet of indoor amenity and 9,500 square feet of outdoor amenity, which I think is absolutely huge for this building. And this is actually one of the outdoor amenities that we have for this building, which I'll get to in a second. Let's start on the ground floor.
Sure.
So we have a rather large gym with state-of-the-art fitness equipment. We have a separate room that can be used for personal training, for yoga, whatever have you that they would like to utilize it for. We have a pet wash that's on the ground floor for pet-loving individuals. And we thought it was a really great place to put the gym because you wouldn't have to worry about residential underneath it, people dropping weights. There's always that concern. So we put that on the ground floor. The remainder of our indoor amenities is on the 7th floor, and it's the beginning of the tower. And in that space is probably my most favorite part of the building because we jam-packed so many things in there while being usable space. 2 of my favorite amenities for this building is we have a rec room that is going to be featuring different arcade games, ping pong tables, really like a place where people can download and people can de-stress. When we were putting the amenity design into this building, we really wanted to create a whole building that was a building where people could live, work, and play, which is so fantastic because the way that the world is going, people working from home, online businesses, it's great to know that you have everything at the touch of your fingertips inside your home. So we have a rec room, which is absolutely amazing. We have a nice kids playroom. We have 2 guest suites for people who want to have their family and stuff come stay with them. We have co-ed saunas, which is on the 7th floor, which is adjacent to the outdoor amenity, which has the pool. We have a social lounge with a TV and a bar area to be able to facilitate, a party type feature. We have a party room from a little bit more of a formal type dining room, which can also dub as a meeting space and a co-working space for people who work from home for the day. And we have a demo kitchen, which is absolutely fantastic. We put a really big emphasis on this. We have a nice mirror above it, above the island where people are able to perform to cook food. And we thought it was a really great space for people to be able to host dinner parties, host a cooking class, bring a world-class chef in, and all that stuff. So I think that we really touched upon everything that you could do in terms of live, work, and play on the indoor side.
It's very, very urban feel.
Yes.
Very, very urban.
Yes, and that's what we're trying to do. It's going into that, we're in the 21st century and the way that we're living and the way that everyone is living is changing and flipping to more a digital thing, a digital world. So being able to have that aspect of live, your suite, you come downstairs, you can work, you can also live, and you can also play, which is really important. Everything at your fingertips.
This is a next level amenity program for this neighborhood.
And we placed a lot of emphasis on that because you can have amenities, I think, are, it's not necessarily something that necessarily sells a building, but it's an added feature. And I think it's something that's really, really important for both end users and investors when they're looking at which is the next condominium or investment to purchase. Then adjacent to all that amenity, we have your outdoor amenity, which has a barbecue area with dining tables for an outdoor al fresco dining situation. We have lounges with fire pits with the backdrop of the city in your back. It faces east, so it's fantastic. We have a sectioned off kids area, which is fantastic for families, sitting at the lounging and being able to watch your kids in the kids area. We have a section of dog run as well for pet lovers. And then the biggest feature obviously is the outdoor pool, which is fantastic. You can see here it's an elevated outdoor pool overlooking the city skyline, and it's absolutely fantastic. We have these cabanas, sun loungers. It really is honestly, it feels like a resort feel all in one. When you go to a resort, you have everything all in one. Sometimes you don't even need to leave your resort. That's what we kind of tried to play in for this building. Another added feature of this development is we also have an on-site park that is just to the north of the site, which aids towards the parkland right outside your doorsteps. And as Zev was mentioning, it's more of like an urban feel. We have, beautiful wood lounging seats. We have some concrete elements. There's nature, there's trees. And then we brought this fun element, which kind of plays on the inside of the building. We have areas for ping pong tables and, areas where people can go and play chess. And it really plays onto the whole aspect of what we're going for the whole building, which is an area where you can live, work, and play.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
It was a lot in one.
A lot to unpack.
Yeah.
One of the other very interesting amenities is, you sort of alluded to it earlier, is the shuttle service.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about that, because for me this is like, it's so simple that it's genius. Yes. And you almost wonder why this doesn't exist everywhere, but just give us a rundown on that.
Sure. So as Zev was mentioning, when we look at an area, we look at, the overarching planning structure, and we see, the transit network, what's coming, proposed developments, and all that fun stuff. So looking on the Queensway, there is a TTC bus that runs fairly frequently. It goes both east and west, goes to Sherwood Gardens. It brings you up the Queensway up until the area of Roncesvalles. And what we were thinking about now, and building a development that is a well-rounded development that's able for people to live, work, and play, it's the level of convenience.
For sure.
And I think one of the things that, as you mentioned, which seems like an absolute genius idea, which isn't necessarily instilled in a lot of buildings, is an idea of a direct shuttle service. And when we were thinking about it, we were saying, how can we bring something, our location isn't necessarily on the TTC, on the subway stops. The transit and subway station is a major part of people's lives because it's how they get into work, how they get in and out of the city. So what we were thinking as a development that was, or an aspect that was going to be specific to this development, is offering a direct shuttle service, which takes residents of 36 Zorra, future residents of 36 Zorra, to and from Kipling Station at peak hours in the morning and peak hours in the evening. We're in the right in the middle of where Islington Station is and where Kipling Station is. They're one's an 8-minute drive, one's a 6-minute drive. And the reason why we picked Kipling is because Kipling is becoming the new hub. There is a GO station there. There's a GO train there that takes you right to Union Station in one stop, and it is the start of the TTC station, which is the first stop on the line that brings you downtown. And they are doing major renovations to the Kipling Station because it is going to be the hub of Etobicoke. So offering that to our residents of this building, I think, is something extremely important because it adds that level of convenience.
100%.
It takes that aspect of a lot of developments you have to walk to the subway station, or you have to drive, and you have to drive to the subway station and leave your car there. Here, where we have a shuttle service that picks you up right at the tip of 36 Zorra's lobby entrance, and going to be bringing people to and from the station in peak hours in the morning and peak hours in the evening. It just creates that level of stress off of somebody where, they have to wake up, they have to give the added time of them getting in their car, going to the underground, picking up their car, going to the station. And it creates that level of stress-free environment. And the fact that we were able to offer something, and the maintenance fees of this building are still being able to be under 60 cents a square foot, which I think is something that's unheard of in this type of development, given all the competition and stuff that's in the area. I don't know if you want to touch upon that a little bit more.
Yeah, well, we thought of this a while ago, and we priced it with many different companies and shuttle services until we found the optimal formula that works. There are a few other projects that do it, and it's becoming more and more prevalent where, the city's growing faster than the infrastructure. We all know that.
100%.
And as people, we can do it ourselves better.
Yeah.
Right? We can do it ourselves more optimally. So why wouldn't we? And as you do that, it grows upon itself, right? Just like the sharing economy with Uber changes the world, the way people commute. So too, shuttle services are commuting and changing the way people live in condominiums. Now, what happens is within 8 minutes, you're at Kipling Station, which, to Jordan's point, is on the Bloor line. So you're on the subway line. It's also the last stop, like you said, from Kipling Station to Union Station. It's on the GO train and the GO bus. So you have the collusion of a major transit hub that gets you downtown within 15 minutes. And that idea of, I don't have to walk anywhere. I mean, I don't have to walk like in the rain 10 minutes to when it's raining and snowing and -20 in February to the subway station. No, I'm not advertising that we're on the subway station. I'm advertising that you never have to go outside to get to the subway station, which I think is a tremendous addition here. And to be able to say that we can run it more efficiently, and I think that's a beautiful concept of direct service. It's direct. Concept. It's exclusive. It's exclusive to 36 Zorra residents.
We live in a day and age where time is so important. Time is the one thing you can't get back, and anything that we could do to make everyone's life a little bit more efficient, I think, is something that we strive for. And I think an idea doesn't become an idea unless it's proven. And as I've mentioned, there's more and more developers and more and more projects who are going into it. The one thing that we can hope is that we will be the pioneering of this in this specific area between Kipling and Islington. And all the future growth over the next 10 to 15 years will eventually buy into the idea as well, to create a more efficient node. I think is a great.
And we've had talks with other developers, and eventually there's going to be a full service.
I can imagine,
a shuttle service here that's just going to go every 5 minutes back and forth because that's what the demand is.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I love about that in this project, it just shows the level of detail that you guys go to in terms of making sure, like I said, every box is checked, and it's that level of detail that makes good projects great projects. So that's one of the reasons that we think it's a great little feature. So amenities, we're chock. We've got everything we need in the building. Let's talk about the suites. Again, when we sat here a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned you've been working on floor plans for 2-3 years.
Yes.
And again, it speaks to the level of fine detail of every square inch of the building. So talk to us about the floor plans. We've seen a handful of the floor plans. We're very, very excited about them. I think there's one that we call the Genius floor plan, where it's 600 and change square feet, 2-bedroom and den, but laid out immaculately, no wasted space. So talk to us a little bit about the floor plans and what we can expect there.
Sure. So we have a great mix of 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, and then there's obviously the mandated 3 bedrooms, which we have incorporated into the building and are very, very functional. Our tower has a great mix. It's honestly an equal split between 1 bedrooms and dens and 2 bedrooms and larger. The tower is more so focused on, I would say, and that's why I say our building is more so 50% end user and 50% investor, because I think the tower kind of lends itself more towards an investor suite, just because the tower is 750 250 square meter plates, and the way that you break it up is more so conducive of that. In the podium, we have more of the end user suites because you have the little bit of the larger suites where you're able to get more functioning space in there, which is extremely important to an end user. When you're looking at buildings, the mandate of an end user and the mandate of an investor are totally different, and you know this better than we do. So when we're able to have a little bit more space on the units in the podium, we were able to, get a little bit more comfortable living area and comfortable, bedrooms and this and that. We placed a really big importance on making sure that each unit in this building is livable. Even our studios, I think our smallest unit in the building is 440 square feet. And it has a 17-foot living, dining, sleeping area, which is absolutely unheard of for a studio. Normally you get your studios that are 9 feet, and you kind of have to work in that. So we placed a really big emphasis on making sure that everything is really usable.
Excellent.
And majority of the units in this building also have outdoor space, which I think is really important, just because of the quaint nature of the building, how it has that little wave thing. The balconies are very, very unique, and each balcony, like each tower floor plate, has a different spot. So wherever you are in the tower floor plate, I think it's fantastic. But we have a really great mix of 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and we're really excited. The units range from 440 square feet all the way up to 1,300. So really great mix of unit sizes and suite numbers that we're really excited to bring them to market.
And
amazing.
To Jordan's point, which you spoke of earlier, one of the advantages of working on this project for so long and being one of the earlier ones is that you design the building from the inside out. And by doing that, you get the perfect layout. Each unit and each square foot is perfect because you're not constrained to make a tower shape because you have to respect all these other distance separations in a shape that doesn't work for the units. You make the perfect rectangle, and to Jordan's point, you design inside out, those unit layouts are perfect. So you could buy a 600 square foot where 50 square feet of it is a hallway that you can't really use, or you can buy 600 square feet where every inch of it is perfect space. And I think that's a huge advantage that this project has.
Excellent. So just to wrap everything up, we talked about Zev as a 3rd generation developer who's seen development through his entire life. Altry and Ellis Don working together. A really, really interesting pocket of development in Etobicoke that has huge potential. Identified as a growth node with a dozen plus buildings coming in the future. We've got a great location. We've got 36 Zorra. That's chock full of amenities. We've got the really neat shuttle service that almost feels like you've got direct connection to the subway and downtown Toronto. We've got amazing suites, amazing floor plans, amazing suite mix. Is there anything I missed? Is there anything that I didn't say that you wanted to talk about?
There's one thing I do want to talk about. So I grew up in a development family. And this happened with ICE towers, ICE 1 and ICE 2, and South Tower, North Tower, next to the Air Canada Center. Sorry, did I call it the Air Canada Center? What's it called?
Scotiabank.
It's always going to be the Air Canada Center to me. I'm sorry, Scotia. No matter how much you paid for that. And the top of ICE had those little, they look like Swiss cheese hats. And it was an architectural element the Architects Alliance wanted. And my father told me, he said, Zev, when you make a building, make it iconic. And if you spend time on the iconic architecture, no matter how much extra it costs, you'll be driving value to that building forevermore. And if you look at it, ICE today is always in every picture in downtown Toronto because of those hats, because it stands out. And I remember at the time one of the partners was saying, well, why spend the extra money? And my father said, when you make an iconic building, it will have value forever. So one of the things that we wanted to do, even though it is very expensive, and we could have done a simpler building, we wanted to make this building iconic. This is a building that when you come down to Toronto, you're driving along the Gardiner, what are you going to see? Right away, you're going to see this building. This building is going to be almost a crown entering Toronto forevermore. And we wanted it to stand out. So we went to Graziani Carazza, who also designed Aura, that Trump Tower, which was also iconic with the drippy lights. You can see it everywhere at night. Anybody at night can show you where Aura is, even during the day. And we said, we want something iconic. We want something that will drive value because everyone will know that that's the iconic building that it's in. So we designed 36 Zorra with these wavy balconies that intersect, that are wraparound, so you get twice as much balcony space as a typical building, which is a lot more costly. And we use these materials to kind of give it this wave. And when it's done, it's going to be super iconic because it is very rare to find a building in Etobicoke that brings the amount of architecture that we're bringing here.
Awesome.
So if you want to buy in a building that everyone's going to know is 36 Zorra, and everyone's going to say, oh, you're in the 36 Zorra building right away, it's going to command a premium.
Awesome.
We are happy to spend the money on this extra stuff.
That was great. Actually, there was one other thing that we didn't talk about because of where the building is situated, the views from here are unreal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We took drone photography. You get the whole downtown, you get the Etobicoke waterfront, you get the water to the upper floors. It's almost as if you're living directly on the water with these crazy views. And more importantly, you have views all the way around.
Yeah, for sure. Amazing. I think that about covers it. We are really, really excited to bring our investors to this project.
And we're very excited to work with you.
Thank you very much. If our investors are interested, what do they got to do?
They should reach out to Roy. And Roy will work with us. And we have a sales office on site. It's absolutely stunning. It's almost 5,000 square feet. It has a model suite inside of it, a scale model, and a tremendous amount of detail. Jordan built it here with tremendous amount of detail, and we're very excited to be able to present it.
Amazing. We're excited. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.